I am Tracy Fiends, co-founder of Sophia Financial Group and Sophia Wealth Academy with my business partner, Kamal Basra. We are a full-service financial planning and investment management firm located on Vancouver, BC's west side. Since we opened, we've been dedicated to delivering excellence in professional, holistic investment management and creating a platform for financial inclusion, education, and inspiration. We believe that money is power, the power to create personal peace of mind and the power to make the world a better place. Wise Money Talks is our online education program with the objective to help you gain control over all aspects of your relationship with money. We want you to be the boss of your money and not the other way around. Money, as I'm sure you've learned, is never just about the money. This season in particular, our offerings are dedicated to building resilience and confidence so you can move forward in your financial life with strength and conviction. I'm so appreciative of our incredible speakers who are so willingly able to share their time and energy and wisdom with us. They bring new ideas and considerable life experience to their teachings. Thank you from both Kamal and I. I'm also grateful to our webinar hosting and marketing teams for managing all those backstage details and everything that goes into presenting these wonderful speakers and their important life-changing messages. Again, thank you. And so for now, I will sign off, leaving you in their capable hands. Have fun, everybody. And remember, we're here if you need us.
Hi, I'm Joanne Loze, and I'm honored to be your host for the Wise Money Talks seminar with Sophia Wealth Academy for 2021. Before we get started with tonight's presentation with Sheila Walkington, please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat function. Tell us your first name and where you're joining us from. This webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Sophia Wealth Academy YouTube channel within the next week or so. You will also receive an email once it is live. Just as a reminder, if you missed any of our previous webinars, all of our past webinars are now available on our YouTube channel and can be viewed anytime. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, as we have time allocated at the end of the webinar for all of your questions. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce to you tonight's speaker, Sheila Walkington. Sheila is the co-founder of Money Coaches Canada, a national network of fee-only money coaches and financial planners. Sheila has been working as a money coach since 2004 and is considered to be actually one of Canada's first money coaches. Sheila is also available for speaking engagements and corporate money coach training and continues to take on new clients as she really still loves helping people get out of debt. Along with Karen Mizgala, Sheila has also published 2 books, Unstuck and Your Money Map, and has launched the 7 stages of financial well-being coaching system and published hundreds of blog articles and resources. Sheila is no stranger to Sophia Wealth Academy, as she has been involved since the very beginning, and we are always happy to have her back. And now, without further ado, I am happy to pass you over to Sheila, who will walk us through the process of getting unstuck and out of debt so that we can all start living the life that we want. That there is indeed a better way, as Sheila likes to say. Over to you, Sheila.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Joanne. That's great. Thank you for the warm welcome, and welcome everyone. It's nice to see several people signing in now. And I am going to attempt to share my screen, and hopefully we can get PowerPoint. Okay. So tonight's topic is unstuck and how to get out of debt and start living the life you want. And so for many people, debt has become a way of life, and it's way too easy to get into debt and can be really hard to get out of debt. And so I want to encourage you and remind you that it's your money, your life, and you need to take proactive control. So I think, Lindsay, we have a poll that we're going to want to get started with so we can see where everyone is financially. So a couple of questions here for you if you don't mind answering. So where are you financially? You might be in debt, but managing month to month. You could be drowning in debt, hopefully not. You could be living paycheck to paycheck. You could be good at the moment, but unsure of the future, or maybe you're feeling financially secure. Oh, it says hosts and panelists cannot vote. Oh, I see. All right, good. So please log where you're at financially, and we'll see what kind of where everyone's at, and hopefully you're in the right place tonight. All right, so here are the results. 42% are in debt, but managing month to month. Nobody's drowning in debt. That's fantastic. A couple of people are living paycheck to paycheck. That's 11%. And a full 47% of you are feeling good at the moment, but unsure of the future. And that's probably not uncommon. Lots of people are not really sure how to plan for the future. So that's great. Sounds like you're all in the right place. So the first thing I want you to encourage you to think about is know why you want to be debt free. So to me, some people that are in debt think they can't have goals, but that's absolutely not true. You need to have some fun things to look forward to, or have a strong goal to work towards, or for you to be motivated so you can do what it takes to get out of debt. So I want you to think about what's going to come after the debt. So you might be feeling less stress, more freedom. You might have money to travel, and maybe there's possibility of a home purchase. So to me, I think it's important to know why you want to get out of debt, and then it'll be easier and more motivating to create a plan to get there. And to me, absolutely, the bigger and more motivating, the bigger and more inspiring the why, the easier the how will become. So if you don't mind, it'd be great to get a sense of where you're at and what your goals are. And if you haven't thought of your goals, now is your time to think about, okay, what do I really want in my life? And if you could just pop in some points in the chat section there, it would be great to hear where everybody's at, what we're struggling with, or what we want to work towards. Joanna, are there any comments coming in? I can't see on my end, so.
They're just starting to come in.
Okay, perfect.
Do you want me to read some of them to you?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Somebody just basically said all 4 points. pay off student debt and save money for property.
Okay, yeah.
Retirement while still healthy. I like that one.
Yeah.
Pay off my mortgage and retire in some comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Just travel.
Good.
Yeah, they're coming in.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know. Good.
Homeowner, traveling, be the rich aunt of my family. I like that one too. Travel, retirement, helping kids in school, and paying off mortgage. And then another one to help children,
Okay.
home and travel, and elder care.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that one's going to come up more and more for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Travel and financial freedom. So some themes.
Yeah, great. Good, good. Okay, well, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. So once we know what our strong goals are, next up, we want to make paying down debt a #1 priority, because debt can really weigh you down, and it can take away from the things that you really want. So it's important to set your mind and have a clear plan to get out of debt. And you really want to have use those goals as a motivation. So lots of you mentioned retirement, helping the kids, travel, all sorts of fun stuff. So I want you to keep those goals top of mind. Even though you're in debt, you need to think about what are the fun things that you want to plan for and what are the priorities. And if we were in person today, I would be handing out credit card condoms. So for any of you who are struggling with your spending, this is a great way to just have a visual reminder. And the goal here is to put your #1 goal on the front and think about what is your top priority. And then before you spend, there's these 4 questions on the back. And sorry, you're supposed to put your credit card or your debit card inside, whatever gets you in more trouble. So on the back, it has these 4 questions. Before you spend, ask yourself, do I need this right now? can I afford this? Could I get it cheaper or free elsewhere? And will it move me one step closer to my goal? So I really want you to think about your goals top of mind and consciously work on a plan to spend more carefully, because maybe there's ways you can do things differently. If you knew you were saving for home, if you knew you were saving for your kids' education, if you knew you were saving for retirement, would you spend your money differently? Because it's way too easy to just whip out the credit card and start doing your coffees or takeout or whatever. So really think about what your goals are and ask yourself every time you spend, is this really what I want to be doing, or can I do some things differently? Next up, I want you to set a date to be debt free, because when you know the date, you can see the end. So I don't want you to overthink this, but maybe just pick a date that feels good. Maybe it's the end of the year. I'd love to be out of debt by the end of the year. Maybe it's next summer. Or if you have a little bit more debt that you're carrying, what about 2 or 3 years from now? Just set a date, an arbitrary date in your mind, and then work backwards and think about what it would take for you to be debt-free by that date. And I don't want you to get discouraged. I think you need to think very creatively. What could you do differently that might make this possible? Would you be willing to spend less and forgo takeout and skip the dishes so you can put more money on your debt every month? Could you look around your house and find a few things to sell on Facebook or eBay? Would you be willing to work more hours at work for overtime or take on a second job? Would that help to get you debt-free, closer to your debt-free date? And if you really had a strong goal, what would you be willing to get a roommate, or maybe move to a cheaper apartment, or find cheaper living quarters? So think about what you'd be willing to do. And you might be quite surprised once you have a debt-free date, what you'd be willing to do to meet that goal. Next up, you want to have a clear plan. So it's really important to have a systematic plan to pay down your debt. A lot of people just try to find money at the end of the month and put that on debt. But I'd rather you focus at the beginning of the month and say, every payday or on the first of the month, I'm going to pay $500 down on my credit card, or I'm going to pay $300 to my line of credit. So it's very clear, and it's something that you have to keep yourself accountable and stick to. So set a plan and stick to it, and make it systematic if you can. So there's no leeway to kind of any wiggle room to not pay down the debt. Next up, it's good to have I like this worksheet, I call it keep a running tally of your debt. So there's lots going on here. We've got our date to be debt free at the top. We now know why we want to get out of debt. And here we're going to track our debt. So you want to list all of the debts that you have, and then if it's what month it is, give your current balance. So, and then tally it up. So what we want to see here is that you're making progress on your debt. So you want to see every month that your debt is going down. Lots of people like the visual reminder that they're making progress. And it also is a really good way to keep you accountable, because early on, I discovered that people were telling me they were making big credit card payments. Maybe they were making $1,000 a month credit card payment. But every month I'd ask them to give me their credit card balance. And I'd say, well, your credit card is higher than it was last month. What's going on? And they really didn't know why their credit card was going up, but it was because they weren't paying attention. They were paying down $1,000 on their credit card, but then they were spending $1,200 on the credit card. And so in actual fact, they weren't even going down. Their debts were going up because they weren't very aware of how they were spending their money. So this worksheet is a really great way to keep track of your debt and see progress. And for those that really like a visual reminder and sort of a check mark to see that you're doing good, this is a great worksheet. And this is in the handout. So at the end, I'll go through the handout. So there's a couple worksheets that you can work on your own that will keep you motivated and debt top of mind. Next up, we want to think about tackling one debt at a time. So lots of people try to throw $500 here, $300 there, $200 there, without a really clear plan on how they're going to pay down their debt. So ideally, I'd like you to prioritize one debt. Now, you still have to pay the minimum payment on all your debts, but if there was one debt that you really wanted to focus on, you can put all your extra money or your big payments on that so that you can start to tackle one debt at a time. So there's a couple ways to approach this. You could, if you have a high interest credit card with a lot of debt on it, you could start focusing on that credit card first, because the sooner you pay down that, the faster you'll save on interest. If you have a couple small debts, maybe some credit cards with small balances, you could focus on them first and pay them out for a quick win, maybe a tax refund, or if you're selling something, or some found money. Pay off the smallest balance first so you can check that one off. Then you move on to the next step. Some people might have a debt with a really big monthly payment. Maybe there's a car loan that's $750 a month, or an installment loan that you took out years ago that's $500 a month. If that large monthly payment is a real trouble spot for you, maybe you want to find some money, a tax refund or a bonus, or again, some found money that you can pay down on that debt to free up the cash flow. Because as soon as you can free up the $750 or $500, it gives you more money either for your other debts or just for some of the day-to-day living expenses that you might have been struggling with when you had this big payment. So there's no perfect answer here, but it's important to think about which debt you're going to prioritize and how you're going to get the money for that, and then start tackling them one at a time. If you have quite a bit of debt, maybe high interest debt or multiple debts, the other thing you could do is consider consolidating either to a line of credit, or you could get an installment loan at the bank. The one thing I would caution, and I always tell my clients, that this is a one-time get out of jail free card. So if you're going to consolidate your debt, you want to make absolutely sure this is the last time you consolidate debt, and you have a clear plan that you're not going to run it up again. Because the last thing you want to do is consolidate your debt to an installment loan or a line of credit and then run up your credit card again. So please, before you do that, make sure you have a clear plan, you know your numbers, do the math, make sure the repayment plan is affordable, be clear on the terms and how long it's going to take you to pay out that debt. And absolutely make sure that if you take on a consolidation loan, that you have enough money for the other things. Because as I said, if you make too big of a commitment to a consolidation loan, you won't be able to cover all your expenses. You'll be back in the same boat again, running up your debt. Once you have your credit cards paid off in full, or at least one credit card, I really want you to keep that balance at zero. So no matter what, with all my clients, I try to get at least one credit card paid off, and then that's the only one that they're allowed to use. So that keeps them super accountable to make sure that every time they spend money on that credit card, they have a plan to pay it off in full every month. Because it's way too easy to just put things on your credit card and run up the debt and not really think about how you're going to afford these at the end of the month. So I know that for everybody, they might be a little bit comfortable with carrying a credit card balance, but absolutely, they're not meant to be carrying a balance. The interest is quite punitive, and it really does not make you accountable. So ideally, just use one credit card and make a plan to pay that off in full. And the way to do that is you can plan ahead for all the upcoming expenses you might have. So thinking about the things that are going to come up along the way, and have a plan to save for them before you put things on your credit card. So that's my next slide here, is to savor the things you need and want. So many of us are really good at knowing about how our monthly payments, like we know our rent payment, we know our mortgage payment, or the daycare or the Shaw bill. We're pretty good at the month-to-month stuff. But where we can get ourselves in trouble is with the variable expenses or the unexpected costs. So things that might come to mind are gifts, car repairs, travel, concerts if we were allowed to go to them, like children's activities or summer camps. Property taxes is a big one as well, home maintenance. So all of these things, they're not really unexpected costs. We should ideally know that these things might come up. We may not know how much they are or when they're coming up, but realistically, we should be able to estimate how much we want or plan to spend on these type of expenses throughout the year, and then start to save for the monthly. So then the money is there when you need it. I can't tell you how many clients I've had when they come back from holiday and they say, Sheila, I can't believe we just got back from holiday and we had the money in our travel fund and we paid off the credit card in full. It's such a great feeling for my clients when they have a big expense come up and for the first time they actually have the money saved for it. So it's a really, it's key for you to keep out of debt, because these tend to go on a credit card or line of credit if we haven't saved for them. I personally like to have a savings account for several of these types of expenses. I have a gift account. I save $100 every pay, so that when birthdays come up, when there's Valentine's Day or it's our anniversary or it's Christmas, I have the money in my gift account, and all I have to do is see how much is in there and think about, okay, who do I have to buy a gift for? And then the money's there. Same with travel. Travel is a very important account for me, so I have a travel account. We put money in that every month as well. And I love to see my travel account build up, and it's building up quite a bit these days because we're not allowed to go anywhere. So I'm sure that would be something great for many of us to start thinking about, is planning for our next trip when we're able to actually get out and about and explore the world again. Things like property taxes as well. Have a clear plan to save for these so they don't become unexpected expenses. So I've run through that fairly quickly. I'm really happy to take questions, and I'm sure there's quite a few questions, and maybe I'll just, maybe there's quite a few questions, but I just wanted to give you a couple of resources that you can think about, and I'll go through the handouts. But some really easy, cheap and cheerful ways to stay in control of your finances is you can sign up for our Money Coaches Canada monthly newsletter. Lots of tips and tricks in there. It's not just about cash flow and debt. It's also about retirement or investing or tax-free savings account, things like that. So that's an easy way to stay in touch with us. You can download the handouts, which I'll go through in a minute, or we have, Joanne mentioned at the beginning, our book Unstuck. So a lot of what I've been talking about today is in the book. It's Unstuck, How to Get Ahead Financially and Start Living the Life You Want. It's available hopefully in your public library, but also on Amazon. So you can do some good reading there. It's a really approachable book that'll give you some good tools to get on track of your cash flow and debt. So bear with me while I try to show you the handouts here. Okay, can you see that screen, Joanne?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so dead easy, you just put in your email and your name, and we'll sign you up for the newsletter. If you don't want to be on the newsletter, just unsubscribe or let me know and I'll send you the handouts a different way, but pretty easy to get the handouts. Quick, easy download here, and we can still see, Joanne, you can see what I've got here.
Yes, we're with you.
Okay, yeah, just takes a minute. Hey, okay. So some of the key points that I was talking about right up front here. The life goals page to me is a really good one. I love for my clients to think about what their goals are and what they want to work towards. So that's the fun stuff. So really take some time to think about your goals and have a dollar value and a time frame so that you can start thinking about how you want to reach those goals and also use them as motivation to get out of debt. Some questions here that that help you explore your thoughts on money and debt. Lots of stuff to go through there. One thing you might want to think about, and I'm happy to chat about this in a few minutes, is what lessons did we learn from money about our parents? A lot of clients tell me that they never learned about money from their parents. It wasn't talked about at home. And this is a pretty common statement for clients to say, so don't feel bad if you don't know about money. It's not something that all of us grew up learning. I was very lucky. My father was very proactive about teaching all of us kids about money. We had to keep our accounts. We had to do our own like sort of a little budget every week before we got our allowance. My dad wanted to make sure I knew how I spent my allowance last week before I got my allowance this week. When I was old enough, I had to start doing my own taxes. My dad made me go to the bank and do an RSP contribution. So I was very lucky. I learned about money from my parents, but not, I realized that that's not the norm for everybody. So if you feel like you didn't get those lessons from your parents, don't think that you're the only one. There's a lot of people that are struggling with this stuff, but there's so many resources these days. You can go out and get some great books. You can listen to great podcasts. You can reach out to Tracy or myself or newsletters. So there's lots of ways to learn about money. And I'd certainly encourage you to talk about money with your friends and family as well, so that it's something that that you're learning to deal with. Here's the keep a running tally of your debt. So that's one of the handouts as well. A debt-free checklist. So again, just reminding you to have clear goals and know why you want to get out of debt. If you're making it a number one priority, because I know it's really easy to avoid paying down debt. But if you do want to move forward and meet your goals, then you really absolutely have to move through the debt so you can get to your goals. So here's again, just a couple of quick little things you can think about, but here's the debts and the order I want to pay them down. Some reminders: if you use your credit card for new purchases, you're going to pay them off right away. Found money and all that, all sorts of good stuff here you can work on. And then this is where I wanted to spend a bit of time as well. This is a spending and savings plan. Like, this is the handout is a PDF, but if you do any of our courses or workshops, we'll give it to you in an Excel format. And you can start thinking about, okay, what money do I have coming in as a household for my spouse? Do I have government benefits or bonuses or overtime? So tally up how much money is coming in. And then you have to think about all those expenses that come out on a monthly basis. So everything from rent and mortgage, property insurance if they're paid monthly, all your bills. These days, many of us have our Netflix, our Crave, iTunes, Spotify. All those monthly subscriptions can really add up as well. Car payments. So these are the things that just come through monthly. So total those up, and that's the things that you're committed to already. Then I have this section called basic monthly costs, and that can be things that probably happen every month, but maybe aren't fixed. They might be somewhat variable. So your groceries, your pharmacy, pet food, gas, dining out if we were able to do that more comfortably, alcohol, parking, all the things that might happen every month. Think about what you spend on those, and they're a little bit harder to contain because it's really easy to overspend in these areas. But I like my clients to have a little mini budget for this. So maybe it's $400 a week or $800 a month or $1,200, whatever it is for you and your family. Think about what that number should be and try to make that a little separate budget that you can work towards every month to keep those numbers contained. And then we have that section I was talking about, the variable expenses, lump sum and annual expenses that come up more sporadically. So your car repairs, car insurance, if you pay that annually, property taxes, things like gifts, donations that we might do occasionally. Of course, the all-important travel fund. Kids activities, I find this is one, maybe not during COVID, but kids activities is one that can really add up if we're not careful. All the things we're signing up our kids in, and maybe post-COVID there'll be a flurry of activities for kids signing up for things. So start to save for them so you have the money there available when needed. So lots of great handouts. That's 6 pages there, but I think lots of good tools, and happy to share those with you and allow you to work through them on your own. So, Lindsay, I think we had another poll there for seeing if people have worked with financial professionals in the past. Perfect. Okay, so if you wouldn't mind taking a minute here to answering some of these questions. Do you currently work with a financial advisor, or have you in the past? And some of the answers here are no financial advisor, but I manage my finances myself. No financial advisor, but I sure could use one. Some of you might be working with your bank. or you have an advisor that helps you with your investments, or maybe you have an advisor that helps you with both your financial planning and your investments, which might be ideal. So if you can log your where you're at with working with an advisor, you can let us know and see what what's working for everybody. Okay, so all right, results are in. Only 6 of you say you don't have a financial advisor, so that sounds good. 22% don't have an advisor, but they could use one. Okay, so you're in the right place here. 33% are working with their bank, and 33% have an advisor that helps them with their investments. And only 6%, and this is interesting, that 6% have an advisor that helps you with both financial planning and my investments. So good to know. Lots going on there, and it is I don't want to say complicated, but there's so many different types of advisors that it's really important for you to think about what kind of help you want, and then go search for the right type of advisor. So it's not a one size fits all. Each person is going to need a different type of advisor. Some people just need investing. Some people need cash flow and debt management. Some people need a lot of education and hand-holding. So think about what it is you want, and then do some research as to think who might be the best person to help you with your finances. I've also got, hopefully I can move this here, if any of you are interested in some coaching or workshops, I've got a couple of programs set up here for you. You can do it yourself cash flow and debt plan that involves the worksheets, but also having 4 one-hour coaching sessions with myself. You can either do that individually, or if you can get a group of 4 together, happy to do it all together. So this is where you would work through the worksheets. We'd have a discussion. I'd help you give some tips and tricks on how to move forward and create a plan for you to get out of debt. Or if you want more hand-holding, you can do one-on-one coaching with me. It's certainly more expensive, but I will do all the work for you and create a really tailored plan that will work for you. And I put the prices there. They do vary depending on how complex your plan is, but if you're single, $27.50 might be at the low end for 4 coaching sessions. These would be 90 minutes. But you'd come out of it with a very solid plan and a really tailored I would call paycheck to paycheck plan. This is what I do every payday. This is how I save for travel. This is how much is going to go for debt. This is the debt we'll pay off first. So very, very tailored plan for your services. So I've run through that pretty quickly, and we're going to answer questions. But Joanne, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk about the upcoming webinars.
Thanks, Sheila. Also, just want to remind people, if you do have questions, you can start to place them into the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and then I'll be reading the questions from there. I've noticed a couple questions over on the chat section, so I've pulled those out as well. But if you can use the Q&A function, that would be great. But before we move on, I'd like to remind everyone that we have our next Wise Money Talks seminar coming up on March 17th at 6 p.m. with Mihail Mamishvili, who believes passionately that by learning to listen to our bodies, we can change our lives. This workshop will be offered over the course of 2 sessions on March 17th and March 24th. You can go to the Sophia Wealth Academy website to sign up. And again, all sessions are free to register. And I've actually done a few workshops with Mihail, and it really has been transformative for me. So I really encourage you guys to all join us for his session. We are also excited to let you know that you can dive deeper into increasing your financial literacy through our Financial Empowerment Foundations e-course. So as Sheila was talking about earlier, that there's lots of ways for you to get more information and just to flex that muscle a bit more. And you know, as Tracy always said, the more information that women have, the better, the more risks they can take and the better decisions that they can make. And the e-course is a really great place for a lot of you to get that information that you need to sort of to do what you need to do with your own finances. And if you register before March 31st, you will receive a 50% discount. And basically, this course is based on Tracy's book, The Financially Empowered Woman. And as you know, this interactive and informative course will teach the basics of personal financial planning through the lens of your own values, economic needs, and priorities. To access the discount when signing up for the course, use the Wise Money Talks coupon code WMT 2021. Basically, the regular price for this self-directed course is $149, but with the discount, it'll be $74.50. So it's really a great opportunity, and we've just had a group go through and looking at it can be basically between 10 and 20 hours, depending on how deep you want to dive into all the different sections. But there's a wealth of information on the course online. And also, Sheila mentioned spreadsheets earlier, and you'll have access to her courses through the downloads. But there's also on the Sophia Wealth Academy website, in the resources section, there's a downloadable cash flow spreadsheet and one for net worth. And so those might be of use to you when you're doing some of this planning as well. And again, they're in Excel spreadsheets. All right, so now we're going to move to questions. And sort of let me get my way back. And one of the first questions that came up was, if I have debt and savings, should I use my savings to pay off my debt, Sheila?
That's a good question. So there's no perfect answer here. I would encourage you to think about what's your biggest priority, right? If you're really itching to get out of debt and it's not going to break your heart to cash in those savings and pay down the debt, then that might make the best decision for you. But just keep in mind that once you cash out your savings and pay down the debt, the savings are gone and maybe the debt's gone, but you want to make sure you're not running up the debt again. So just be careful if you cash things in. It's not another get out of jail free card. It's like, okay, I'm going to take my hard-earned savings and pay down this debt, but it's going to move me forward to my goals. Now, some people, it may break their heart to cash in those savings. So in that case, if it's really important for you to keep your savings, then let's work on a really clear plan to pay out debt. So you can keep your savings, but you can proactively pay down your debt without touching them. So it's going to be different from everyone. But I always encourage people to think about what's going to create the best behavior. So what's going to encourage you to do the right thing and maybe move you towards the goal. So think about the behavior before what's just the most efficient thing, because it's really easy to make what seem like smart decisions that may end up you might regret. So just be careful and be clear on what your priorities are.
Yeah, I guess it always comes back down to what your goals are, what your values are, and just really being clear about who you are and what you need to be able to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Another question that came in was that how do you make up for depleting your savings during a time like COVID?
Right. Yes, there probably is a lot of that going on, isn't there? Yeah. So, I mean, just like everything, it's having a clear plan. So if you depleted your savings, how do you build them back up again? Is that you have to maybe double down, right? You either have to have a clear plan to spend less so that you can start to save once you're back to work or your income's back to full strength. Or maybe you have to do a wholesale change, right? I've got a couple people that are emailing and saying, restaurant workers that have been out of work, they're like, Sheila, we're doing a career change. We might be selling our condo, but we want to make smart decisions with our money before we move forward. So it's really about, again, having a clear plan and focusing on what is the priority to get back on your feet.
Yeah, that dang plan.
Yeah, I
So
know.
important on so many levels. Okay, another question that came in is, how quickly should you pay off your mortgage? Is it important to pay it off before retirement?
Ideally you have no mortgage by retirement, right? That's going to make everything easier. The less debt you have, the less income you need in retirement to meet your goals, or maybe the more money you have for your goals. So a mortgage can really weigh you down. So ideally you plan to have your mortgage paid out by retirement. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean it's the most important thing to pay it down. Like, you don't have to pay it down by the time you're 45 or 50. Like, maybe time it so it's just done 64 or 64 and a half or something, so that it's just time to pay out at retirement, because there's a lot of other things that you should be planning for. You want to save for retirement. You want to be maybe maxing out your investing for TFSA and RSP, if that makes sense for you. So yes, you want your mortgage paid off by retirement, but you don't have to fast track it, because it's eventually going to go down anyway. So to me, it's not the biggest priority. Saving for retirement and keeping the credit cards and other debt at bay would be my biggest priority before the mortgage.
Great, thank you. Another one that's, what are your thoughts on working with a financial advisor who works for a financial organization, sort of like IG Wealth Management Investors Group, versus with an independent financial advisor who's not tied to a specific organization?
Yeah, good question. So I'm a bit biased because I am an advice-only planner. So I don't sell investments, I don't sell insurance. So to me, that is, if you can afford that, it's the way to go, because you get very, well, I shouldn't say that. It's one way to go, because you get very customized, tailored service that's based on what your needs are. I get paid, and advice-only advisors get paid by you, unfortunately, writing a check or paying by your credit card. But it means that we're not biased. We're not trying to sell you an investment or insurance to get paid. So there's nothing wrong with going to IG or a commission-based advisor, but you just want to make sure that you're getting the service that you need for the price that you're paying, right? So there's lots of great advisors out there that can help you with a plan, but the only way they can get paid is by selling you investments or insurance. So if that's what you need, if you need those products, then it might be cheaper to go to that type of an advisor. But if you're focusing more on cash flow or retirement and you don't want anyone to sell you investments, you might be better to go to advice only. So you really have to think about what it is that you need, and then where you're going to find the best value and the best fit for your needs.
Right. A lot of research and a lot of homework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we have someone else. Is it okay to defer city taxes, especially after turning 55?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Yes, it's okay. But again, make sure that you know what you're doing, right? Like if you're 55 and you want to stay in your house for 20 years and your property taxes are $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 a month, that can really add up. And it is a debt, even though it feels like you don't have to pay it till you sell the house. It is a debt that accumulates. But if you want to stay in your house and you can't necessarily afford the taxes, or you want to spend the money on something else, it can be a way to free up cash flow and stay at your house at the same time. So again, be cautious, but no right or wrong answer there.
Okay. Another one. I took advantage of the home buyer's plan to use my RRSPs towards a home down payment. Rules allow for 15 years to pay back. Is there any benefit to pay off before the 15-year term?
Not really. No. I know people, like some people think they should pay it off faster, and but ideally, and I guess there's a couple caveats to that, is that you only have to pay off the minimum. So 1/15 of whatever you borrowed over the 15 years is the minimum you have to pay back. If you don't pay it back, it's added to your income. So that's a penalty. But ideally, if you're saving for retirement and you're in a high tax bracket, you want to pay just the minimum that you're required to pay back on the home buyer's plan. And then anything above that can be an RSP contribution. And as I said, if you're in a high tax bracket, you'll get a tax refund or tax savings on that. So unless you're in a low bracket and you want to pay back if you're in a low tax bracket, but you have some cash and you want to pay back the home buyer's plan, it's a way to get the money back in the RSP. But if you'd rather get the tax savings and make an actual contribution, I would just pay the minimum.
Great. What percentage of net income would you recommend people carry as a mortgage debt?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, that's a hard one. I'm not really a big one for rule of thumbs. I would just make sure that you can afford to do all the things you want to do and pay for the mortgage. Obviously, having a super high mortgage payment can be very stressful. In Vancouver, I have seen mortgage payments as high as $5,000 a month, which I think would give me a heart attack if I had to pay that every month. But But so I think it's really just about you being clear on what's coming in on a monthly basis and what's comfortable. Probably the rule of thumb is 30% of your net income, but it's, for some people that's really hard in Vancouver because our mortgage payments are very high.
Yeah. Probably some of the highest in the country, I would think.
Yeah.
Is it okay to save while I'm in debt?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. Yes, because I think for some people, they feel like debt is it's not a fun goal to get rid of. So if you want to focus on some of the other fun things like travel or buying a home or starting a family, things like that, absolutely, you should be saving. And so it's about finding the right balance between how much do I need to put towards debt, but how much can I allocate to my goals? And it might differ depending on your time of life and where you're at in your cash flow, but absolutely it's okay to save if you're in debt.
Yeah, it probably gives you a little bit of that win that you talked about before. Just gives you
Mhm.
that cushion, especially towards like the emergency fund, those kinds of things.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the key, is to stay out of debt, is to encourage you to save for the things that you really want to spend your money on as well. So those things don't get added to your debt.
Yeah. And then somebody else was asking, should I track my spending?
Right. Yes. Good question. That's a common question I get. And these days there's so many places to track your spending. I am actually not a super big proponent of using, Mint or I don't know, you need a budget, YNAB, mostly because I find that people spend a lot of energy on the program and inputting stuff and not as much energy on being conscious on how they want to spend their money and being proactive of setting money aside for the things that are coming up. So everyone's different and some people are more comfortable with those online type of tracking things. But I would say think about what your priorities are and know yourself. If you're going to get bogged down in the details, I wouldn't jump into one of those type of programs. You could do the old-fashioned way and just keep track on a notepad. This is what I'm spending on groceries. This is what I'm spending on my monthly subscriptions. I use an Excel spreadsheet. To me, that's much faster than entering everything into a Mint or these online programs. Excel is simple; it does the math for you and keep tailored and customized to how you spend your money.
Right. And as I mentioned, that there is a downloadable cash flow spreadsheet on the Sophia Wealth Academy site that might be helpful, and has a lot of detail listed on that as well, just for those where that could come in handy.
Yeah, great. Good.
Yeah. How important is having life insurance?
Well, if there's somebody that's dependent on your income, so children, a spouse, I don't know, parents so that you might be supporting, then you'd want to have insurance. So if you're single and if you were to pass away and no one, needed to pay the rent or look after kids, then you might not need insurance. But if you have a big mortgage and a family that's going to stay in that home, even if you pass on, then it's important to have insurance to make sure your survivors can maintain their lifestyle and not have a huge shakeup if something were to happen to you. So we have different life insurance needs at different points in our lives. Our biggest insurance needs are usually early on when we're young and we have debt and we have children that need raising and they, daycare, or they need summer camps or stuff like that. So we have our biggest needs when we're young. As we get older and closer to retirement, hopefully we're paying down our debt and building up our retirement savings so that we become maybe what we would say self-insured, that you wouldn't need it. So if you were to pass away or your spouse were to pass away, it wouldn't be a huge financial hardship. Of course, it would be sad, but it wouldn't be a huge financial hardship if you weren't there to provide your income. So different stages of life, you're going to need life insurance more sometimes than others.
Great, thank you. In what cases would you suggest it's best to make TFSA contributions versus RRSP contributions?
Yeah, so it depends on what you're saving for. Some people, if you're using your TFSA for retirement, that's fantastic. It's a great way to save for retirement, especially if you're in a lower income or you're still a student. TFSAs are great. If you're in a higher income, might be better to do the RSP because you get a bigger tax refund. So if you're, I don't know, over $100,000 or so, you're in one of the top brackets. So RSP might make more sense. And the way you might want to think about it is, am I going to be in a higher tax bracket now while I'm working than I would be in retirement? And if that's the case, if you're in a higher bracket now than you think you might be in retirement, RSP might be the better way to go. But if you're in a low bracket, tax bracket, then TFSA is a good option. And of course, TFSA is a great way to save for shorter term goals like buying a new car or saving for a down payment or helping your kids out with a wedding, that kind of stuff. TFSA is perfect for those type of shorter term goals.
Okay, great. And then, should I deplete my savings to renovate my basement to bring in rental income, or use the cash for a small investment property?
Oh, that's a good question. I would do the math on that, right? I mean, if you can renovate the basements and pay off the debt fairly quickly, or recoup your money, I guess, if you're cashing in your savings, that might be the easiest and safest way. But if you're up for an investment property, that's a whole different ball game, right? Now you're a landlord, you might have additional expenses, it's going to be a bigger commitment. So you really want to be careful about that decision. And of course, in Vancouver, it's super expensive to buy any type of property these days. So just do the math and figure out where your risk and comfort level is, and try to make the best decision going forward on that.
Oh, lots of good questions.
Mhm.
And then, if you had to currently choose between extended health or renter's insurance as an additional monthly expense, I'm guessing, what would you choose?
Wow, extended health or renter's insurance, boy, can you choose both? So extended health, I mean, that's really just depending if you're using those type of expenses. So that would be for dental or massage or chiropractor, that kind of stuff. If you're using that, do the math. If it makes sense to use that, or if you have a family that's using a lot of dental and medical, that might be the way to go. But property insurance, I'm a big proponent that it's not that expensive, especially if you're a renter. And I'll just share a story. I had a client that she had a fire in her condo, and the fire wasn't in her particular condo, but it was in the building, and all the sprinklers went on, smoke alarms went off, and even though there was no damage, no fire in her apartment, everything in the apartment had to be scrapped because there was smoke damage, there was water damage, and so she was so lucky to have good property insurance to replace her shoes, her couch. I mean, everything. She left with basically the clothes on her back and her purse. And so property insurance is really important for even renters, and it's not that expensive. It could be 50, 60 bucks a month. So I think just really think about what you need and what your priorities are for those types of insurance.
I guess someone sort of came in with a very similar type question around, is it important to have critical illness insurance?
Maybe. I would say the priority is usually long-term disability. So to me, that's the number one thing you want if you're dependent on your income, or if somebody else is dependent on your income. So if you're unable to work due to accident or illness, long-term disability will kick in and pay you a certain amount per month while you are unable to work. So if you need money for groceries or rent or mortgage, or you need to hire someone to help with your kids, if you're unable to, then long-term disability is usually the number one priority. Life insurance is probably the second important type of insurance, living insurance, if you have somebody that's dependent on your income. So again, if you're single and then no one would be financially a burden if you were to pass away, then you don't necessarily need life insurance. And then critical illness, I would say, would be the third one. This is critical illness is a lump sum one-time payment. It could be like $50,000, $100,000. that pays out if you are diagnosed with a certain number of or a certain type of illness. So it could be a heart attack, a stroke, cancer, those kind of things, the big ones. So if you didn't have disability, if you couldn't qualify for disability for some reason, if you're not working, you can't get disability because it's based on your income. Critical illness is good for that. But I would say there's a sort of a hierarchy of insurance needs that I would look at before you get to critical illness.
Great. And then the last question is a long one.
Okay.
So I'm going to try to do it justice. Okay, we talked about the rent. Okay. What are some common energy focus drains about money you see your clients getting caught in? And then what are some energy focus boosts you've routinely heard from clients that make a difference to help them get traction and moving forward? So the first one is, what are the things that you see people doing that are draining and getting them stuck? And what are the ones that are motivating and moving them forward and staying on track and getting ahead?
Right. Well, let's start with the fun ones. So goals obviously are more motivating. So if you're really clear on what your goal is, it's much more fun and motivating to get your cash flow on track. So I'd say number one thing is that if people don't have goals, that's a mistake that you can make, and vice versa. Your goals have power, right? Like if you really know what you want, then it's easier to go get the resources, get the plan in place, get motivated to do what you need to do. I would say the thing that's the most draining is ignoring your money. The old head in the sand is really hard. And I've had some clients that I've worked with, and they said, Sheila, not knowing the numbers, I thought that would be stressful, but ignoring my money I thought was stressful, but not knowing those numbers was really stressful. So when we started working together and she faced her finances and we looked at the numbers, we looked at what's coming in, what's going out, she felt so much better. She said, Sheila, I thought it would be stressful, but avoiding that stuff was super, super stressful. I had one client years ago, she said, Sheila, will you open my mail with me? She brought in a basket of mail because she'd been avoiding her bill. She didn't want to look at her line of credit balance. So she brought this whole basket of mail and we just opened it. I helped her sort through. I said, keep this, keep that, throw out that. Here's your line of credit balance. I explained it to her. So this was a woman that had gone through a divorce and was ignoring her finances for so long because she was just afraid of looking at the numbers. And it was really not that bad, but she was making it worse because she was afraid to even take that step to look at it. So yeah, definitely head in the sand is not a good thing to be doing with your money.
Information is power, and
It
facing
totally
things head on.
Yeah, totally is. Yeah.
And now we always get asked about, what are you reading? What do you recommend?
Right. Okay. Well, I got a couple books here. So I'm going to do my plug. Our book, Unstuck, definitely a great one to start with. This is a good one, Worry-Free Money, by Shannon Lee Simmons. So Shannon's a dynamo. It's called The Guilt-Free Approach to Managing Your Money in Life. So fresh way to think about money. So definitely probably for younger readers, but it's a fun and easy read. I've got Tracy's book. If you haven't read that, Financially Empowered Woman is a good read. And what else do I have? Soul of Money. I don't know if anyone's heard about this. Soul of Money, Lynn Twist. Yeah, it's a fantastic book. It's quite, I'm going to say I read it years ago, but it's not so much about the numbers, but really about, the soul of money and what's important and how to use your money to do good. And it's amazing when I think all of these days all of us are being much more grateful for the position we're in because we're seeing people struggling with so many things these days. So the Soul of Money is kind of a nice warm read to get you thinking about how to do good with your money and do the right things with it.
Yeah, Tracy references that one a lot as well.
Yeah. Oh, great. Good. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for an amazing and informative and engaging presentation, Sheila. You covered a lot in a very short span of time, and I'm sure everybody's taking it all in and had lots of notes. But we're grateful that we have the handouts that we can refer back to be able to go through some of that. Also really appreciated all your tips and strategies, and it really is apparent that you really do love helping people get out of debt.
I do, absolutely. Yeah.
I know. It comes across actually.
Great, good.
And I was really intrigued by the credit card condom, and it's the kind of thing that I probably needed about 15 years ago. That would have been really helpful.
Yeah, I think we could all use a credit card once in a while, a credit card condom once in a while. Hey, yeah, kind of fun.
It still makes me laugh. But like I mentioned, Sheila's handouts, you can go to those links. They are in the chat section. And you can always reference back this webinar. It will be on YouTube to get the links as well. And once the session has ended, you'll all be asked to complete a very quick survey, basically less than a minute. Your feedback really helps us with designing upcoming webinars as we move forward, getting a sense of what works, what didn't work. So if you have a chance when we're done here today, just take a moment and fill out the survey. We'd be very grateful. We would also invite you to check out our Sophia Wealth Academy website. We now have a regular blog feature, and you can find out more about other upcoming events, such as our Wise Money Talks series, as well as our Wise Money Moves podcast, and as well as many other resources, like I mentioned earlier. And again, thank you for joining us today, and thank you to Sheila. And we're really appreciative that everyone has asked some really great questions and participated in the polls. We hope you have a wonderful evening and that you can join us again for our next webinar in March. And also help us to spread the word about sharing Sophia Wealth Academy upcoming events with your friends and family. They are free, and we just hope to see you. And well, I won't see you, but hope to have you join us again soon. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sheila.